Did you know that more tracks released a week on Beatport than there were in the whole of 1999?
I get sometimes it's really, really good to get an old track and do a new spin on it and bring it to a new audience, but it's consistent now. It's just every track is just an old tune rehashed. I'm going, yeah, this is amazing, and then come in the next morning going, what was I thinking? This is terrible. Why was I thinking of a breakbeat trumpet solo in the middle of this trance track? I have a real problem with producers who come in at the end of the session, say, hit play, yeah, that's good, that'll be my next single, and walk out and go on their next £10,000 gig. When you've no connection to the records and stuff, it's when you haven't made it, you haven't thought about it, you haven't built it, and you haven't went, I know every single note in this. We talked earlier about El Niño. It crashed and I was able to recreate it. Had it been a ghost producer or, you know, a couple of people, that wouldn't have happened, but because I knew it inside out, I'd worked on it for a week, 2 weeks, I was able to go, that was the hat I used, that was the sample I used, that was the kick I used. I can still remember the presets. And I had these guys behind me with machine guns, and I was the promoter said to me at 1 o'clock, you know, stop. I was in an open air car park in Beirut, and I was like, stopped. It was vinyl, and I hit stop, and he said, what are you doing? And I said, you said 1 o'clock and they've got guns. And he went, no, that's the mayor of Beirut, and he's giving it large. He was on stage like this here.
Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me on this week's podcast. I'll be really quick. 70% of the people that watch this podcast aren't subscribers. Podcasts are the hardest channels to build. I'd really, really appreciate your help just by clicking that subscribe button. It takes a few seconds and it's free. Thanks so much, and let's continue. Let's go back to where we were.
Finished. Yeah, okay.
I remember where we finished because I still got it here.
Good.
Does that seem familiar to you?
Oh, yes.
Can you see it?
Lounge. Yeah.
Now, I kicked myself because when I pulled this out, I forgot that you had a mix on this. So, how did that come about?
Lange had remixed Every Day, so he was first on the remixer of Every Day, and he was just starting to emerge. I think he'd one sort of track, and he'd remixed Every Day, so he took the vocal, and I always found a lot of remixers couldn't handle vocals. You know, they just didn't know how to work with them, whereas Lange took the song, give it his Lange spin, and kept the vocal. In fact, he probably did a better job of the vocal mix than we did. So I never ever loved any remixes we got done. I really love Matt Derry. I love Matt Derry stuff, but his mix of El Niño, I really didn't like. And that wasn't Matt Derry's fault. That was an A&R executive in the record company trying to cheese it up and make it commercial. And I was trying to be cool Sasha, Digweed, you know, Renaissance and stuff. And I thought, you've bastardized my really cool track and made it this commercial thing, you know, because it had maracas and stuff. And it was like, you know, let's fire in all the Ibiza shit that we could at this, you know. And Marcella Woods came in to do a vocal, and we didn't know anything about it. And we got this remix back, and I was like, El Niño. So, as I said to you before, there's 3 different vocal versions of El Niño. There's the Swino Latino one we stole.
Yeah.
The poor girl that we put in the wardrobe from the university. And then there's the Matt Derry mix that had Marcella Woods on it. And I just didn't like it. I liked Lange's mix, and I've become even more and more fond of Lange's mix. So I just always found remixes that we got in just were like, there was never, until I think Protoculture did one mix, and I loved it. It was just like, you've taken the track, you've actually made it better, you've enhanced the riff, and you've made things. I just thought sometimes it was a bit conveyor belty. It was a bit sort of like, it felt like they spent 2 hours in the studio just...
I think speed comes into it now. It's funny you say that because I've been listening to a lot of remixes over the last couple of months, and I think they're bloody awful, to be honest.
We were guilty of
as well.
We were guilty. We never rushed. I just sometimes couldn't get a vibe together. You know, there was just some remixes worked for us, and some remixes I just couldn't get. I liked the Lange mix, but it's really laid back. You know, and it wasn't like a big hard banging thing, so we never really got to play it out loads. But as a listening thing, it was, this is grand. Uh, some remixes we loved, and there were some people that were brilliant at remixing. Matt Derry was brilliant at remixing. He was brilliant at taking bang average tracks and making them brilliant. I just didn't like what he did with El Nino, and it was like, but I know it wasn't Matt. I know it was an A&R executive in the label at the time trying to commercialize it and ruin it.
I've heard this. I've heard this before. A couple of where the labels put influence on the
Yeah.
production, trying to get more, just squeeze more out of that.
So remixes were a hard one for me. Sometimes I loved it. Sometimes I really, really struggled just with the material.
I think we're in the time of remixing at the moment, aren't we? Because there's a lot of remixes going out, and I think I was speaking to one of our engineers last week, Paul Maddox.
Yeah. We've had him on Sonic, yeah.
Yeah, of course you have. Of course
Yeah.
you have. He's just done an amazing job with a track that him and Adele have worked on, and that'll be coming out soon. And he was just saying sometimes it's just easier for people to rehash remixes and get them out quicker than get that authentic tune together. And then I go back again to other artists that I've spoken to, like Ian Vandal.
Okay, yeah, right.
He was saying what he thinks is really lacking in the industry now is just musicality, authenticity of music.
Right. I this is a big bugbear for me. There's something going on in music. Every time I switch on a new track, it's an old 90s thing, or it's a vocal.
Yes.
And it's like, has nobody got an original idea anymore? And I don't know whether it's laziness. I don't know whether it's lack of knowing what they're doing, or it's kind of back to that boy band. We'll launch your career with a cover version from the 60s. It's like, it's the easy in. I get sometimes it's really, really good to get an old track and do a new spin on it and bring it to a new audience, but it's consistent now. It's just every track is just an old tune rehashed. And I'm like, I fear that there's nothing, in 10 years' time, what are they going to look back to? Because there's nothing new.
This is it. Their legacy. What is their legacy going to be? With the people that I've worked with, we've said, listen, there is a lot of remixes going on, and we've got some opportunities to do remixes and covers and stuff. But and especially Adele, she's like, she wants that. She doesn't want to be known as just remixing other things.
It doesn't last. It never lasts. You get 2 or 3, and then people are like, right, next words. If you're doing stuff originally and if you're doing stuff new, it can last, and then you can go back to that stuff. Whereas, I never wanted to do a cover version or like, I was always very cautious of stealing even ideas from other people. I was always terrified. Will they know that I stole that idea? This like 2-bar drum fill going, they'll know where I got that from. Like, nobody cares, dude.
I think also we're missing one important factor is AI now.
Yeah,
it can rip so much of that tune, and you can put it through Suma and literally make a new version of it. I know a AI tune. I imagine you do with your ear. As soon as I put it on now, it's just it's too clean.
Too clean, yeah. There's two. It just sits, and there is a top end sort of brittleness that's still not quite there. I'm on a producer group chat, and they're really they're getting to mix stuff, and they're struggling with AI, and there's people. They're also coming going. There are DJs, producers out there at the moment complaining this is 100% human made, and they're going, I know for a fact that's AI. That it's not human made. So I don't know. You have Diplo this week saying, get on the AI train, or you're a dinosaur. And I kind of get that.
Yeah, and then him fighting with John Summit about it.
Yeah.
I saw that. And then Deadmau5 jumping in. Did you see?
Yes, yeah. But then there was a trance track came out, and the guy, there was comments going, is this the same singer as last time? And the producers very cleverly going, yeah, it is. And then in a private group and being told, yeah, the same singer as Suno, it's the same. That's why he's been able to say that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very muddy. We used to steal vocals from records and use those. Is it different? Is it different than Chicane's mashup with the vocal over it? Is it different than Toka Me vocal over it? Stealing. Grey area. And I'm not I'm not sure where I land on it all, because I was very anti ghost producers and stuff. I hated the thoughts of DJ standing up there with ghost producers going, you know, are you not embarrassed that you're not talented enough to make your own tunes and warrant, I'd always imposter syndrome, and I knew that we made everything and we controlled everything
Yeah.
and we DJ'd everything and
I
we,
still get imposter syndrome, and even promoting and doing the level of work that I do, and it's all original, and I never use anything fake, or I don't download any fake likes
yeah, so
anything. Everything I
yeah,
do is authentic, and I
yeah, yeah,
still really badly suffer through it. So to see what goes on, and with my Paul Maddox interview, we discussed this in depth, because obviously he is an engineer, and he works with some, literally from deep house all the way through to hard trance. I wasn't aware of his house. He does a lot of house stuff for
right, okay,
people who work for Defected and things like that. But he doesn't make the tunes. He comes together and he's like, right, what is the idea? And
yeah, yeah,
if they come into the studio and said, I just want to make a banger, and they've got no
exactly,
ideas and no
yeah, yeah,
direction, he said it'll probably be their last session. And I like that. And
yeah,
Paul is incredibly good, and he's he there's such a big difference between being a sound engineer and a
yeah,
ghost
engineer,
producer.
yeah. That I have a real problem with producers who come in at the end of the session, say, hit play, yeah, that's good, that'll be my next single, and walk out and go on their next £10,000 gig. That is a real issue for me. And when you've no connection to the records and stuff, it's when you haven't made it, you haven't thought about it, you haven't built it, and you haven't went, I know every single note in it. We talked earlier
Mm,
about El Nino.
mm.
It crashed, and I was able to recreate it
Yeah, yeah.
3 days later,
I said that
because
to someone I work with the other day about that story.
uh,
And they're like, no way, it's a favorite tune.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So it was nearly lost, but I was able, because had it been a ghost producer or a couple of people, we that wouldn't have happened. But because I knew it inside out, I'd worked on it for a week, 2 weeks. I was able to go. That was the hat I used. That was the sample I used. That was the kick I used. I can still remember the presets. You know what I mean? So when all the soft synths of our old gear started coming out, the old JV 2080, I was able to go, there's El Nino's bass. There's El Nino bass is a JV bass plus an M1 bass, and I know the presets. I know it's like that was C27. I know what that is. I know what that
Wow.
is. So I can still remember. I know what the pluck from the.
You'll probably never forget it, especially after the trauma of losing it.
No, but even every day I can remember. The ARP of every day is on a Nord, like, and there's a company we know called The Usual Suspects, and they've done emulations of the JP 8000, the Nord lead, and they're
Okay.
one-to-one recreations using the chips in your computer of the actual synths. So I was able to get a synth lead from El Nino that had been lost, and I was able to get it back. The pluck from Everyday on El Nino, I was able to get back. It was like, that's the exact pluck, there it is. So and I could go to the preset of the recreation and go, there it is. And so I can still remember all those things where standing on stage and playing something you're not really that invested in, I just don't get. I'm just
And
like,
you've only got to ask them questions about the track.
yeah, I was like, so that's in the key of A sharp, and they would go, oh Jesus, oh, we're we're
Yeah,
straight now.
I've heard that some interviews are very, very sharply monitored,
Yeah,
about certain tracks, especially with certain artists who become absolute megastars off the back of Ghost production.
yeah, it wasn't so bad in our day, and it was more of an engineering role back in the late 90s, early 2000s. That you went and got your engineer like a Paul Maddox going, look, I have all these ideas and I just don't know how to get it down. Can you
He
help
has
me
a
get
set
it?
of skills
Yeah,
that can bring your idea to life.
yeah.
This is what he
Well,
says.
in the 2008s, 9s, and that sort of EDM era, it was like, I don't have any ideas. I'm on tour. This is the sort of stuff I play. Can you just make stuff and I'll be back in a week and just present present your tracks. That I don't agree with,
Yeah.
So
Now, what I see is people making albums, releasing these albums, and I'm just like, I look back at their touring diary for the
yeah, yeah.
last year and a half, and I'm just like,
When did you make
okay,
us?
how the fuck did you make this?
Yeah.
I don't know how many tracks are on an album nowadays, would you
I
say?
don't see. I've questioned, and I've talked to a few producers going, are albums still a thing? Do people, would you not just do a series of singles? It's back to that. A
If you've
single
got
last.
ghost producers and a lot of money,
Yeah,
doesn't matter, does it?
yeah, but does it have any different impact than just a single? Does it? That album still only lasts for about 2 weeks, and then it's
Yeah,
gone, and it's 10 tracks gone rather than the track and the few
yeah.
remixes gone. I don't.
I don't understand it. But when I
I
see
Dexter, I'd hate to start out nowadays because I wouldn't have a clue where to
this is
start.
my next question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think producers that are missing something now from the era that we had? What are they
Yeah,
missing? What are they missing out on?
too much choice, just too much everything at their fingertips. Too much. You don't really have to do this. When 96, 97, I'm sitting with a Mac and a couple of bits of gear, like a JP 1000 and a sampler, and there's no YouTube. There is Sound on Sound
Yeah,
magazine, and
yeah.
Future Music. Liam Harlot's on the cover of Future Music, and you're going, "How's Liam Harlot doing it?"
And
Right.
the CDs are on the front
CDs,
cover.
and you're going right, and you're ripping every little last ounce of those CDs are going into your sampler, and you're experimenting. You're going, I don't know what this knob does, but yeah, oh, right, okay, that's what that does, and still don't know what I'm doing, but this is happening, and it was an area of discovery. Do remember, once you got a sort of like your hi hat patterns were really boring, and then you sort of added a bit of shuffle and accents, and you were like, oh my God, that's now I sound like that. Now and the elation of when you sort of discovered a new production technique and stuff. I just think kids miss that. It's everything's built for them now. Oh, here's your loop, just fire a load of loops in, chop them up. Here's a kick drum. And we're, as Sonic Academy, we're guilty of, here's a kick drum. Grab the kick drum, your favorite kick drum, throw it into kick three, it'll analyze it, and then you can tune it and do it, and you don't have to think about it, and we'll do all the donkey work for you. So there's so many more tools. It's less creative, and it's like I always remember a good friend of mine is a techno guy, Phil Kieran. Don't know if you know him. Like he's big sort of does a lot of techno-y stuff, and in his early days, he came up. He said, "Can I come to your studio and mix my stuff?" And he came up with his Akai, I think S900 or S1000, and he plugged in eight jacks out of the back of it. And I brought the faders up on the desk. The 8 faders just came up, and there was this almighty techno din came out of the speakers. And I was just like, geez, he's got one piece of equipment and he's just kicking the shit clean out of it, and he just had all these brilliant samples put
Because
together.
he understands how deep that equipment goes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he worked, he had nothing else. So he had to just, I've no other tools. I had to make this sampler work for me. And I just remember going, I had A-frames of, 36 channels of keyboards coming in, and it was like boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
and I just put up the 8 faders. It was like ding, 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 and I was like, canal, what a din,
It's
and what
amazing. Yeah.
I was going, that is talent, that is knowing how to kick the shit out of your equipment. I think my favorite time of producing was when I was still in my mum and dad's house. I had an FZ1 sampler, Casio, and it could sample for 19 seconds in mono. And I had a U220, which was a Roland sort of precursor to the JV2080. So it had like the Sweet Harmony piano and stuff that was in that. And I had an Atari ST, half a meg of memory in the Atari ST, half a meg. And I upgraded it for, at the time in 1990, 91, for, I think it was £200 from half a meg to a meg.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought this is, so I could run Cubase 24. I'd have 24 tracks, and I kicked the shit out of that gear. I just, you know, knew how to sample things and how to be efficient. You're listening to a sample going, well, I could take 1 second of that sample and get 5 seconds of that sample. You couldn't waste anything. Everything had to be, you had to think about what you were sampling and what was going to go into the record. And that, I loved those days. I absolutely loved those. Just, you knew your gear inside out, and now
Yeah.
it's
I, I
too
had
much choice.
I had Satek, the live techno DJ. Not
Right. Yeah.
DJ. He's not a DJ. Sorry, Joseph. Artist. He's never DJ'd. Never DJ'd. He's a live techno artist, very much more prominent in Berlin. Have you heard of him? Saytek,
Say,
Saytek. He's championed by people like Carl Cox but I've got a podcast. I'll link him below this actually, for people that want to watch it. It's incredible, and he's got all these different parts of equipment. And I said to him, "How often do you change this gear?" And he goes, I don't have gas, gear acquisition syndrome.
yeah.
I don't have that because this equipment here goes very deep. And I go, "What do you mean by deep?" He goes, you you need to learn it because
Yeah.
a lot of people just learn the basic
Surface.
function surf, but when you actually, even that thing over there, which you've got next to you,
Yeah.
you can go deep on that as
Yeah.
well and do stuff that you just, but most people won't ever go there. But he's just learned this equipment so in depth that he only has to replace bits and bobs every
Yeah.
few years when something exciting might come out.
I did bizarrely a load of, again, on the producer group, I found in the last 18 months and stuff, a lot of them talking about, I've stripped everything right back out. You know, we did get up to the 1,000 plug-in mark, and it was like, you know, you're like, they were going, it just became stupid. So I just went, I use this, everything else out. And if I'm making a track and I need it, I can also go and download it. But, you know, after 4 or 5 months, they're going, you don't need all the stuff, you know, you just need some couple of key pieces and you're there, you know.
I listened to some of the classic hard house trance stuff from 25 years ago, like some of the stuff and I'm just thinking, it just sounds amazing, but it was built on such limited equipment compared with what is today. And I'm just like, what is the need of all of this? But you're right, it's to make one button solve a problem, make everything really easy. And then you read on Facebook how quickly people are making tunes. I made 10 tunes this week.
I used to feel, I used to feel really guilty because, you know, in the late 2000s, people, you know, I've just done 8-hour session studio and I've got a track, and I'm going, it takes me 3 weeks. Oh my God, am I really? Am I shit? You know, and it is 3 weeks of, as I said, my production technique is fumbling about until I find something. I'm not very good at, you know. Some producer said I can visualize the tune in my sleep, and I go, oh, yeah, well, I don't. I sort of sit down and go, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that works. Well, and then I can move on. That's how I produce.
And then you come back the next day and you're like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. Get it all. Get rid of it. Get rid of it all.
Yeah, I've had that a few times.
So there's a week of building something up for about 5 hours. I'm going, yeah, this is amazing, and then come in the next morning going, what was I thinking? This is terrible.
Do you think that is down to ear fatigue?
No,
or just getting into that tunnel vision.
Mood. I think it's down to mood, because sometimes I can listen to a track and go, that's terrible, and then 2 days later put the same track on, like somebody else's track, and go, oh, that's amazing. And it's just maybe atmosphere, mood, you know, how you're feeling that day. Have you listened to stuff beforehand and you're really into the sort of vibe, and you put it on and go, that sits. Sometimes listening to things in isolation, you can go, no, I don't like that. But then listening to it in context in the mix, you know, when you're DJing, listen to a track in isolation, but put it in a mix and you're going, actually, this really fits in and really lifts the vibe and stuff. So, yeah, it's just, it could sometimes be just mood. I think sometimes I can listen to a track and not like it, and 2 days later love it.
Interesting. Stephen Kirkwood. Is that, or, he's on here. Yeah, Stephen Kirkwood. He said he does. He doesn't do anything in the evening. I think it's evening, Stephen, if I'm wrong. But he does all of his listening studio work in the day, and then just doesn't do anything in the evening. Just does like the more. Just takes it easy. Yeah, because he's tired. And then he'll go back to it because I think, I can't remember the exact words he said, but it's along the same lines of what we're saying is like, you might not like the tune and that you might just overdo it, or ear fatigue and stuff like that.
I was guilty as well of sometimes working too much on a track and taking it down a path, and then having to really reverse myself back out, because I don't know why I went down. I don't know why. Why was I thinking of a breakbeat trumpet solo in the middle of this trance track? You know, so and then you have to reverse out and go, and then down another path, and you know, so there is a lot of. I don't like at the moment. There's lots of teachings from Instagrammers and stuff saying, and then you do this, and then you do this, and it's that simple. And at Sonic Academy, we're always trying to teach. No, you will go down blind alleys, and you will not know how to get back out of them, and you will take a track in a direction that's just wrong, and you have to reverse back out, and you have to be able to know and trust your instincts. Going, that's a shit direction. Let's take away everything we've just done in the last 4 hours and let go down that direction, or park something for about 2 weeks and then come back to it with fresh ears and go, actually, now I can see where this track needs to go because I've had sort of time away from it and I'm not just as involved in it. And now I know we need to go down this avenue. So there's too much. I think there's sometimes a danger of young producers thinking I'm shit because I don't know exactly to go down one singular line, rather than going, no, you need to go down maybe sometimes 2 or 3 paths to find the right one you're going down.
So back when it was hardware, studios,
Yeah.
time limitations, cost,
Yeah.
did that help the creativity? Because you had a limited amount of time because you had to pay for the studio a lot of the time, didn't you?
No, we did. We had our studio, so
Right.
so
You're one of the lucky ones.
yeah, we had a guy that sort of financed. We bought a house next door to Robbie's house, and it was just a studio.
Okay.
So it was a lovely 4-bedroom detached house. In the living room was the studio.
Fantastic.
And we had Akai samplers. We had the Mackie 8-bus desk. We had monitors, and it was a well-equipped studio with the Mac, a really, really early Mac and stuff. So time wasn't an issue, and I lived in that house. So Robbie would come up in the morning, and we just, have coffee and stuff in the kitchen, and then into the living room. And then Phil from Sonic Academy, who was coast to coast, he joined. So we converted the garage into a studio as well. So we had 2 studios running at that time in this sort of class house overlooking a sea and a harbour, and was like, Ibiza vibes, but in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So again, it was like Aldi Ibiza.
Can you tell me, right, so I am familiar with Sonic Academy, and before our conversation the other day, when I saw the YouTube plaque behind you,
Yeah.
I didn't know you had anything to do with Sonic Academy. I've done a lot of, I've always looked at Sonic Academy as for inspiration because we had a hardware website years and years in COVID. And I always looked up at Sonic Academy, Digital DJ Tips, and a couple of those other sites as like the gold standard.
Yeah.
Have you been there from the start?
No. So
no, right. Tell me about it.
It started off as Sonic DJ Academy.
Right.
So it started off as a physical DJ Academy in Belfast, in a room with decks, and this is mid-2000s.
Okay.
And so it was so young people, and I think they had tied up with some schools, maybe a BTEC, so schools could come down and they would teach DJing and stuff. Then Phil Johnson, who was coast to coast, sort of said, I think we should, try and do an online thing,
Good move.
Again, this was probably around the same time as YouTube started. This is 2007.
Yeah.
So, and they got some grants from, government, it's like, technology advance. So they built a website, and Phil started recording the content and showing very early copies of Ableton, like Ableton 2, 3. And then we moved. So this is still prior to me. We had this sort of janky old office, and then just as I came on board, we moved to these big swish city centre offices with big classrooms, rows of iMacs in them and rows of DJ equipment. Schools were coming down, and we'd lots of staff, and it wasn't doing well. It was going to
physical. It was a physical school.
It started as a physical school, and Phil Johnson had the idea of bringing it online. Then we started getting investors in, and they were having board meetings in 2010, 11, going, yeah, I think we're going to maybe do a DVD up, and we're going to try and sell this product in Apple stores. And Phil was sitting around the board table, because he was part of the board at the time, and said, everyone's going online. Physical products are dying out. We need to be getting rid of all the physical stuff and just being online. So it did collapse, and Phil and another guy bought it in the background and just went, we're going to run this from our house, and we'll just put up cameras and we'll just do Sonic Academy online. And uh, the online side was doing well. The physical side, where the kids were coming in to learn stuff, wasn't doing well.
The overheads are huge.
That was the overheads were huge.
Yeah.
It was a big, large, 3,000 square foot space in city centre. The rent was just astronomical.
The tutors,
insurance, tutors, cleaning, office staff, everything, and it was just like, get rid of it all and let's go online. And then I came in with Phil, and I joined them, and I started making content, and Brian and Phil, and we were all running it from our own studios. And then Phil so we were trying to do a deal with Silent. So it was a very early, brilliant soft synth. So it was, and we were using it in all our courses, and every producer was using, every sort of producer at the time who was moving from hardware to software was using Silent, and we were showing how to do it. And we kept trying to contact them, going, "Would you give us a discount code for our users? We're showing this. Would you?" And they ignored us and wouldn't reply to our emails. And Phil just went, "We should build our own synth." And yes. Everyone just went, "But we have no clue how to build a synth. We know how synths work. And so he did a Photoshop, designed it in his brain, and Brian and Phil went and found a developer and financed, and we built the synth, and it was Anna, and Anna did really, really well, and we did Anna 1.5. We kept developing it, but the code was always a bit janky. And then he did a course on how to make kick drums in Ableton, how to have a sub, how to have a top end. We did a course on how to do it, and Phil went, "We should make this into a plugin." And so we developed Kick, and first things of Kick was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And we released Kick, and I remember the day we released Kick, it was like, we had a bit of a marketing campaign against it, and our site at the time was so janky, it could take about 130 users at one time. And we released Kick, and every 5 minutes the site would collapse because there was hundreds of people trying to buy it. Just like, this is amazing. And it flew out the door. And then we teamed up with Nicky Romero.
Yes.
And so we did Nicky Romero Kick with him. And he kind of designed some presets and stuff and got it out to his mates, and a lot of the big boys.
And he marketed it under his name.
Yeah. So there's Nick. So there was an original Kick, and then there was a Nicky Romero version you could buy, get his presets, and it just flew. It was just phenomenal success.
What year was that, if you don't mind me asking?
14, 15.
You were right at the beginning. Then this is well before things like Splice and stuff like that. Then.
Yeah. So the online content was growing. We were getting people like Paul Maddox, Elke Klein, those sort of guys were coming.
My mate Rory.
Your mate Rory.
Yeah.
So I came in then as head, because I'd been to the BBC and I left the BBC and come in as looking after all the content. Phil looked after all the plugins, and Brian was kind of GM. He looked after everything else. And told me and Phil not to spend money or and just said he looked after all the back end stuff of the website. And so it was so they're the founders. I just came in, as an employee and just help, with I had contacts obviously in the trance world of, lots of the big fellas to come in and go, here's our, here's plugins, getting it into their hands and sort of, saying, here, look, I had contacts for, Armin, Shontias, and all these guys, and then genuinely people were watching the courses, and lots of artists were contacting us, going, "Oh, I loved, you got something out of the techno course, I got something out of this," and then we just started. We did Anna 2, and again these are massive undertakings as well. Financially they're big undertakings for developers. This is all pre-AI. So this is physical people physically coding, and so we got guys in France and stuff to code, and they cost a lot of money, and like Savannah, there's a lot of research and development, there's a lot of tweaking and a lot of graphical things. So it is a big undertaking.
It's not cheap at all.
No, it's not cheap, and so like Vela, our last reverb, which is a brilliant, beautiful reverb, but there was 2, possibly 3 years of R&D from Phil into, how can we make a reverb slightly different and a bit more interesting. And so he came up with this idea of seeding a cloud in a space, and that cloud can then develop the reverb. And then we had, kind of like Kick. So it is a linear reverb timeline, so you can draw these really cool decay curves. It doesn't decay like a normal reverb. You can have it decay and then do LFO spikes and stuff on it. So there's all these interesting things with it. So it's a big outlay. It's not just as quite as easy as people think. A lot of artists come to me and go, "I have an idea for a plugin." You're going, "I don't want to know it. Don't tell me," because we all, we have probably 10 plugins kind of running here at the same time. Some work out, some don't work out. Some you're going, it's kind of like the music. Oh, we've gone down a blind alley in that one, and doesn't, it's not what we'd hoped it would do. It doesn't solve the problem that we wanted to solve elegantly, and it's a bit cumbersome, and I don't think anybody's going to like it. And then you go down another route. Oh, we got a reverb, or we got this. So.
Yeah, no, I've been a big fan of Sonic, and I also can identify with when we were doing our website during COVID, we were looking at what products should we make, and what products should we go. We're not going to do courses because there's so many people that do this full time, been doing it for years. It's a packed marketplace. You've got like Crossfader, you've got Sonic Academy, you've got well, no, Crossfader is more DJ stuff.
There was Point Blank.
Point Blank. You've got all of these great ones, and we're not doing that. Should we think of like some sort of product? And then we're looking at the cost of stuff, and we're like, wow. But we were doing okay, and but then obviously COVID lifted, and then all the events come back, and you start getting drawn back to that. But no, it's I had no idea that it was around so long.
Yeah, I mean, when did it start? Let me think. Mid 2000s. As a DJ Academy, it's probably been around from early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
As a Sonic Academy online, I think Phil'll be able to tell you better when he launched. Maybe 2007, 2008. I mean, our YouTube channel is 16 years old. It's
Fair. I mean, what a wise move from Phil.
It's Phil's. He saw it.
I mean,
he's seen it.
It could have collapsed. I mean, if he didn't make that move, it wouldn't be here today.
It did collapse because we had all these investors. It did collapse, and Phil and Brian went in the background, went, "We'll take this," and got rid of everything else. Got rid of the physical, all the costs, and went, "We're going home. We're getting cameras out. We're getting Ableton open, and we're going to make tune." And
well before everyone else, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we've seen them all come and go. Cymatics had started an academy. We're like, oh no, and then I think 12 months in, they go, "Oh, this is really hard to get an audience." Yeah. So we're really lucky that we've been there. We've built a huge database back end of over 15 or so years. And he has innovated again. He saw the light going, let's build our own plugins. And that has saved the company, as that income stream has really helped. And it's not all about, we're not just relying on tutorials now. We have a couple of income streams. We can also teach better using our plugins. And then
they'll purchase them, won't they?
Yeah, but we're also really not aggressive. We're trying to do our plugins cheap. Like Kick, full price Kick is 60 odd quid. And we have a sale, and if you sign up to watch the shows, you'll get a discount. Then Anna is relatively cheap. I think it's like 90 quid. It's not, we're trying to be
accessible,
and not take the piss, and trying to go. We remember what it's like as artists to be broke.
And the cost of hardware,
and the thought you're saving and just so. Look, we've done it. We can do it. Here it is, and hopefully you can afford it. And yeah, we've loads and loads of new plugins in the pipeline. All between 70 and 90% ready, and yeah, we hope to do an announcement in the next 6 months around all that. One big package for everything, and one.
So if you're watching this and you're a budding producer, I'm going to put all the comments and the links below in the descriptions and everything, and I highly recommend.
I think we're up to like how many courses? It's something stupid like 900. Let me see. Well, we used to have a live sort of thing, but it's like 900 courses in anything you want.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God,
It's
yeah.
mass. It's huge. It's massive. I
I
mean,
mean
and
that depth on your website as well. I mean, your SEO is superb because you're a proper business. And with what happened to us, because we weren't really a proper business, we were more of an affiliate business when we were doing our site. We were doing really, really well. But then the helpful content update that happened several years ago, it kind of like wiped those businesses out. I remember
yeah,
coming back from Kevin and Perry one day, and I getting a phone call going, "Have you seen our traffic?" And it's just dropped by 90%. And overnight, Google just switched the algorithm to remove any website that wasn't really a proper business. You know, these
okay,
affiliate businesses that just
yeah,
run
okay.
off sales from Amazon,
Backlinks.
yeah, and stuff like that. And it kind of like we were really good at writing for SEO. We were in the top three in America for DJ headphones. If you typed into Google, uh, best DJ mixer, best DJ. I can't honestly remember what they were, but we were doing really well from ad revenue and affiliate. But looking back on it, it wasn't a proper business. It was just we were creating articles. We were hiring writers to write about the equipment,
Uh-huh.
and it was all authentic. It was all these were writers from DJ Mag all the way through to to, to enthusiasts who were reviewing equipment, but it wasn't selling courses. It wasn't didn't have a shop. It didn't have this. It didn't have that.
Yeah,
And Google, I think, just made a big decision to wipe those out. And all of a
yeah.
sudden, and we tried our best for about a year to get it back to where it was, and it just never happened.
Like one thing we're hugely passionate about here is brand trust. Is look, we want producers to come here and us not bullshit them, to sort of teach them as we, we're all kind of. I've had, five top 40s. Phil's had top 40. Brian
Yeah,
has
yeah.
made, we've remixed everyone. I've toured the world. I've done all the big gate crashers and God's Kitchens. And so we do have some knowledge in the field. And, like, we always try and like make sure our content is correct, make sure there's brand trust, make sure that if you're on Sonic Academy, what you're being told is, and we never ever say as well, this is the correct way to do it. We say this is one way to do it because this is music, and it, what sounds brilliant to me sounds shit to you, and that's fine. That's music. It's nuanced, it's different, it's not, when I always tell content creators, don't tell me where to turn the knob, tell me why you're turning the knob. And that's the number one rule in here, is tell me why you're turning that knob. Don't tell me where are you turning it to. And I look at these Instagram 1 minute reels, and they're like, yeah, so you get the sample and you chop the sample up and then you put the sample in and then we do this here and then, hey, you got a track. That teaches you nothing. It teaches you no. Here's the thought process behind these chords, and this is why I want to do this chord on the fourth to resolve, to give this feeling here, to give this, and this is where we're going to change the bass. We're not going to follow the chord in the bass. We're going to put the bass, on a different root note, and it'll give you this nice sort of seventh feel. And this is
Mm.
what we're passionate about, and our plugins we're passionate about. So I do hope we have been around for many, many years now. With COVID, I keep thinking everything's like 15 years ago, and then you go, actually, 2007, we're probably coming up to 20 years,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Easy, easy. Yeah.
so you think there's 4 years that are sort of COVID. So we hope we have brand trust, and we work really hard about brand trust, and we never ever try and shortchange the customer. We're
Yeah.
really passionate about this. Doesn't feel right. This we did about 2 years ago, sort of dip our toe in the clickbaity titles like 5 mistakes young producers are making, and we're like, we're not
Did you get
comfortable with.
some shit back from online about that?
Not really. No,
No.
it was kind of just been in the YouTube sort of sphere, and we were trying to
You
get
don't
the.
know you don't have to do that because you're so well established on YouTube. You don't have to be clickbaity.
I hope not. Like we just didn't do it, and it are probably not getting as many views as we could because we're slightly anti clickbaity and just uncomfortable with it. And it's like, well, no, young producers should make mistakes because sometimes those mistakes are utterly brilliant and can make a
I
track.
think because obviously I'm involved in YouTube and I do a lot of YouTube external work as well.
Okay.
I do a lot of work on thumbnails,
Right.
huge amount of work. And just say people like, and let's just go off topic here, Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, number one podcast in the UK and Europe. Um, because the algorithm knows it's him, it doesn't matter how good his thumbnail is.
Thumbnails are
It'll just whack it in front of those people.
okay.
I mean, if it's a new channel that is just breaking through, your thumbnail has to attract people. It has to jump out. You have to be able to attract those people. But I think if you've got a really, really seasoned channel, you have your audience. Now, the last thing you want is to get people to click on that thumbnail and then realize it's not what they want and they bounce.
Yeah.
Now, when YouTube sees the bounce rate high, if you're doing clickbait, it will mark that piece of content down as poor.
Okay.
So it's better for you to be
Your watch time.
Yeah, your watch time is because you're running more ads to people.
Yeah.
Because they want to run ads to people. So your watch time is far more important than.
Well,
that's why I don't run shorts. I don't do shorts.
Do you not know?
Not now, because it's too early for my channel. We don't do shorts right now because what we're trying to do is, I did at first, but then I thought there is a very big difference between a short-term viewer, consumer, and a long-term viewer, consumer. Now, if I posted dozens of Instagram, TikTok, Facebook reels pointing them at these podcasts, I would get loads of people coming over, but they bounce really quickly because they were like, oh, this is like an hour long. I don't want that. All I'm doing is I post one Facebook short when I've released the podcast. If the artist or the guest wants me to make them some reels, I might do. Or I send them the full thing and they can create some themselves. But I let the algorithm do the heavy lifting. I just let it because I just want long format viewers. So all I'm doing is posting the long stuff and not pushing any shorts to it. Do you think the barrier to entry today has been made, has made the easier or well, obviously it's easier. Because of that, has it made things better or worse?
Right. Do kids today want to be musicians? I don't think they do the way they did 20 years ago. It was, the working class kid picked up the guitar or the DJ and dreamed of, let's get out of the housing estate. Let's get out of the drudgery. Now, I think they want to be tech entrepreneurs. So I don't know if there's that same amount of people wanting to get into the music industry, but the barrier to, I don't know where you start. I don't know how. There's so much of it at the moment. There's so much coming at you. As a young producer, I would not know I wouldn't have a clue. I think about it a lot. I think about 30 years ago, I knew that, well, you have to get it good in the studio and then you have to make the record and then you could send it to these 10 labels, that was Extravaganza, Stress, Manifesto, blah, you knew them and you knew the artists on them, or I could, oh, that artist is playing in Belfast. Let's go and see them and let's see if we can, get them a tape or a, hand.
Yes.
So it's kind of, there was an easy path, whereas today it's like, I don't even, what labels are there? Is there 700 labels? Do labels even release? Should I just put it out on Spotify myself? Do I do it in Bandcamp? How do I cut above the noise? How do you get my socials out? How do you,
I mean, what we're seeing is TikTok is a lot of tracks are being broken on TikTok.
Right. TikTok via the artist page or TikTok via viral audio?
Viral audio.
Right. Okay.
And I think if things get picked up and people start using it, and I think that gets snapped up.
So is that where the labels are looking nowadays?
I believe so. Yeah, that's the impression I'm getting.
Right.
I don't work in that world. I'm beginning to work more in that world, and I'm seeing the emphasis much more on TikTok, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So if something trends on TikTok, I believe it's getting picked up there by the A&Rs. Which is nuts because that is like a lottery.
Yeah, that's what it feels. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a navigatable path. It feels like a lottery. You throw your track in amongst 8 million other tracks, and maybe some algorithm somewhere picks it up and starts feeding it to other people, and they go, I'm using that in my video, I'm using that in my video.
Hmm.
So it's exactly the perfect word. I've been searching lottery. It's a lottery now
Did
for
you know that more tracks released a week on Beatport than there were in the whole of 1999?
it's and then the amount of stuff going up to Spotify, the amount of AI slop going up to Spotify, the amount of moves that Spotify are pulling in the background, of fake streams and stuff. It I don't know whether it feels like this sort of massive volcano and it's about to explode, and maybe it's a good thing. It'll be a big sort of collapse, clear out, let's start again, because this world has just become a mess.
Music is messy. I mean, when my artists say, "How am I going to break through?" and I'm just saying, "Well, you've got to be of value. You've got to prove your value."
Mhm.
And by the way, we're doing that is putting our own events on. So
Right?
they're
Yeah, yeah.
selling their own events out. And I go, "You're moving tickets.
Uh,
That's the
What
way
it,
we're doing it."
what Adele, doing her solo shows and having other is like, now you're establishing an audience and you're establishing a following, and this is what we did back in the day. You built your audience,
Yeah,
so you're building an audience, but it's a physical audience. It's not an
that's
algorithmic
what we're having to
audience.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and
physical, and
I'm
that's
playing to my strengths.
yeah, yeah.
And it is so. I think back in the day, if you booked uh, artists, you knew you were going to get people turn up. But there was there was vast amount of people going clubbing then.
Yeah,
Um, and
weekly.
but a few years ago, when you would speak to a DJ, you'd say, "I'm trying to break through with music." And I think now it's just a lottery, as we just discussed. And then I was speaking to Adele, and even though Adele is producing music in the studio, we're not going to be reliant on that. I said, "I'm a promoter. Let's just put on your own events."
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's gone full circle now. I think people want the smaller events. I think they want the more intimate events, and that's where we started off. We kind of took a bit of a detour when we went to XOYO, but it's just such a great club at the moment that we thought, why not? But I think after XOYO, we'll downscale again and go to more of 300 capacity
It's
sort of event. It's more fun.
last year did a couple of those little tiny 300 and they were some of my favorite events,
Absolutely,
because it was
absolutely.
dedicated clubbers who knew their stuff inside out, were so friendly, were so happy just to be there, and it was just a really focused group of people. And sometimes the bigger events were just a bit sort of like, people,
I think things have gone too big.
yeah,
Some of the artists that I've spoken to said they just can't get that, or the buzz is just not there, and they'd much prefer to be in a club.
yeah.
Um, and so, have you ever fallen out of love of music?
Yeah, no, definitely. I
Yeah.
think towards the end of when I went to the BBC was, very much.
What was that for? Sorry, we've missed this. Yeah, you
Why
mentioned
did
that
I go to the
before.
BBC?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, sort of. We by 2005 and six, I think I talked about, the transition from us selling physical copies of, we talked about the 1 in 5 deal and being racked up in
yeah, yeah.
Virgin and stuff, and then it all became online, and you were selling. iTunes had just come along, and we just found the whole transition quite difficult. Yeah, by 2006, 7, I kind of things were declining. The transition from the physical copies to the digital copies, we were used to a world where we were shooting videos and there was money swimming around, and you'd sell 20,000 singles and you knew where you were, to you were getting, on iTunes, and the digital downloads were happening, and the physical copies had stopped, and it was like, oh, there's no budget for this video and there's no budget for this, and it was like, so what are we doing, and I remember doing an album and again 9 months of work to sort of get it to the first stage, and the record company offered a few grand, and I was like, but that I need a wage for 9 months and it's not there anymore. And so the big advances had gone and the big remixes fees had gone at this stage, and who of his DJing was hard again. We talked about, 2 flights, 2 hotels, and Robbie was doing so. An opportunity came up in the Beeb, and I'd started getting into cameras and stuff, and it's still sort of the same creative thing as making music. And so I went to the BBC. There was sort of production course, fast track to become a BBC producer. And
Wow.
so I was hard. It was a hard day telling Robbie, he's going, look, I'm going to take a job in the BBC here, and ended up producing comedy shows. So, not producing, but
Really?
assist, like we did them in Belfast. And one of the big network one we did, I worked with like Rod Gilbert, Greg Davies, and making a show with those guys
Yeah.
called Ask Rod Gilbert, where you ask sort of weird questions, and
Yeah.
it was a big studio thing, and it was like, oh, this is still the same buzz, and so yeah, I'd left it and couldn't look at dance music because it had become very difficult financially, where it wasn't working, and you were on the sort of downward slope of the. And it was a big change around that 2005 to 2008. There was a big sort of shift. And then the EDM started happening in America, and and it started coming back. But it was a very different DJ that came back. It was a very different, sound. It wasn't trance anymore. It was that EDM,
That big room
big room, dum, 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 dum,
commercial.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I remember it.
and we were just like, felt alien. I think, Dexter, the one thing we always felt like outsiders, even at the height of the careers. We felt like outsiders. We were from Northern Ireland. We were never really embedded in the massive London scene. We knew the Andy Manstons, the Tall Balls, and stuff, and we knew them well because they would come over. Our agent in the north would book these guys, so they had all good relationships, and Robbie would play with them in the clubs, and we'd go and meet them. So we knew Tall Paul and stuff. We could land in London and go for drinks with them, and Fergie. But I especially, I don't know whether Robbie did, I felt like an outsider the whole time. I felt like I just wasn't quite in the inside. I always felt different. I always felt separate and felt, oh,
Is that the imposter syndrome kicking
no,
in, do you
no, it
think?
wasn't. It's
No?
not imposter.
No?
It was more just, I just didn't, I don't know if I felt different than everyone else. Everyone was sort of, yeah, and much more relaxed. And I was a bit sort of like, oh, tense, and a bit sort of like, uh, I just, yeah, and always stressed about things, always stressed whether it was going to happen and where's the next 6 months going to go. And so it was kind of it. When I went to the BBC, it was a little bit of a relief to go, I don't have to look at a DJ diary here and go, in 6 months' time, I have nothing, and I'm panicking, and I've a mortgage to pay and stuff. It was like I
Yeah,
had a
yeah, yeah.
wage, so that was a real. Oh, I don't have to think about this anymore. So it was lovely to have perspective. Then I moved from the BBC to Sonic Academy because they were shooting videos, and it was lots about cameras and lights, and
Yeah, yeah.
right, can you look after the content?
Makes perfect sense now while
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing Sonic Academy. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like that's why I come from the BBC producing shows over to them, and they said, look, can you help us, set up the cameras? And Phil was off doing plugins. Brian then became, as I say, I used to do a lot of back end website stuff, and also look after the financials and do all the reporting and all that stuff. So it was like, right, that was my role. And then I didn't do any DJing until the odd little thing here and there, just, if it was a big event, I would do it. And it was about 5 years ago.
The
Was it
resurgence. Yeah,
pre-COVID? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the nostalgia came back.
Just before pre-COVID.
Just before
Yeah,
pre-COVID.
yeah. Because this is when we started as well. We noticed that a lot of the ex-Ibiza workers
Yeah.
was starting to go out again. I think they'd had their families and
yeah, that was exactly
yeah.
it. And then the concept of the day party was introduced to me, and it was like, this is just the greatest thing in the world. And I fell in love with DJing again. Fell in love with the music again, and we were doing classics, so it wasn't having to be on top of all the new songs, because for me, trance has just become so stagnant and so uninspiring. It's the same bloody sound as they were using 15 years ago. So I was playing classics with Robbie, and then COVID happened, and that was fine. Was still, we were really busy in Sonic because
it flew.
Everyone went, well, I'm furloughed for a month here. I'm going to learn how to make trance, on finally.
Absolutely. We built the website because of COVID and did very well out of it. So COVID was actually not too bad.
And because Brian and myself and Phil work at home, I remember the first week of COVID, everything locked down, and we were kind of going, nothing's really changed.
No, no, exactly the
We don't
same.
leave. We don't leave the
I
house.
totally agree with you. I was just like, I live on an island. I'm in Croatia, and they didn't have any of the masks, and they didn't really. We were just away from everything, and they've cut off all the regions, so you weren't allowed to travel from region to region. So we didn't have any cases of it,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was like life continued. And we were just watching this on the news, going, "What the hell is
It
going
wasn't,
on?"
but I loved it. I loved lockdown. It was like there was no traffic. Everyone was just sort of at home. Now the weather did help in the UK, and it was all a bit chilled. And I was like, I keep going. I wouldn't mind a lockdown once every 4 years. Sort of three
Yeah,
three
yeah.
weeks of everyone just like you're not allowed to move as long as it's 3 weeks of sunny weather and stuff. And you can go for a walk for a kilometer, and that's and you're back home. I enjoyed it. So. But I did sort of get back into it. There was no pressure. There was no, this is what, we're getting booked for the nostalgia thing. So we knew exactly why people were booking us. It was exactly, for our sound. The last 40 minutes of our set is all, you're, the first few times I did it, it was kind of really emotional seeing your body of work, your El Nino, your Everyday, your Big Sky remixes, your Holding On to Nothing and stuff all put together in one sort of set. And it's kind of going, maybe I did a few classic trance tracks, and hearing it all in one set, it's kind of like, maybe had some sort of talent somewhere along the line. It was kind of good playing it out again and seeing the crowds being as receptive and as, always the holding on to nothing vocal when it drops, that big and Audrey just starts singing and the whole place just goes, yeah, it's special being back at it. So yeah, not fell in love is probably a bit strong. I enjoyed doing the DJing again. It was kind of carefree. It was relaxed. It was enjoyable. The clubbers were all really top notch, like really lovely people, and every promoter I kind of worked with was signed. It was just like, they paid on time. They picked you up. There was travel is a bit of a pain in the ball. I detest travel nowadays.
Yes.
15 years ago it was grand, or it was okay, but now it's
Yeah, yeah.
hateful. It's
I
hateful.
I'm just like, when I get promoted from all the way up in the middle of, well, not up north, and we get offered a southern gig, and from an artist who lives in the south, and I'm just like, oof. And I know that it's just like, do you really want to go all the way up there? You're not really
Yeah, yeah,
guaranteed whether it's going to be a good gig or not. It's the whole
yeah,
weekend gone.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It's the whole weekend gone, and so we got to be quite careful on that. Whereas before, it'd be great if you had like 3 or 4 gigs on the way back down, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't really work like that
No, it
nowadays,
doesn't.
especially with the day events.
Yeah,
I can't remember one of my artists I was speaking, and they can't remember when they last played an evening event.
yeah, yeah. No, well, I said I played Poland a couple of weeks ago, and I was horrified to get my set time of 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. I was just like, lads, what? I usually get up for a piss at 3 a.m. I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
starting.
yeah,
Not,
yeah, yeah.
don't start DJing.
I was telling someone that they had to play till 2 or 3 in Ibiza last week, and they were like, "What?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the
I'm, I'm,
latest
I,
I've
I
been
have
out."
almost, I'm always nearly telling the agent, don't get me any DJ sets after 1. I'll play up to 1, and then I'm not. See, but those days, they were horrific. Sometimes, when we were doing not home, Eden, Judgment,
Yes.
we would fly to, I don't think there was any direct flight, so we'd get Belfast, Stansted,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
That's right.
Luton or a thing, and then over, we'd get in about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We'd maybe go for some sort of dinner, and then down to the club, and we were maybe on at 2, 3, 4. We'd finish, we'd have a drink afterwards, blah blah blah, and then we were back in the airport at 8 a.m.
They were good gigs, though, weren't they?
They were brilliant gigs,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
and we were drinking, the whole time, and you're sitting in that freaking Burger King thing, and everyone's disheveled, and it's like Village of the Damned.
Nothing's changed. It just
Uh,
looks a bit more sparkly.
So and then you would get home. So you would get 8 a.m. flight to maybe Stansted, and then a 1 o'clock flight to Belfast at 3, and then back home. You were landing in at 4 on a Sunday afternoon, just absolutely banjaxed. But instead of going, maybe we stay the Sunday and fly back Sunday night and maybe have a nice sleep and a relaxed dive in a pool. No, we were get in, do the gig, get out. You know, it was like, when we did,
Or you could do a slip, Matt. I love bringing this up. I brought this up a couple of times. 2006. Matt missed every flight home, and
right.
he played every week
Oh,
in Ibiza.
jeez.
I think
Right.
he played every week, and he missed every flight home. Slip, Matt. And it was hilarious
Just
because
getting clean on it, was it?
yeah.
Yeah,
He had a
yeah,
great summer. Oh, we all did. It was
yeah.
brilliant having Matt there, and I lived with Charlie as MC above the shipping, and it was just a really a good, great bunch of workers over, and it was just addictive. You didn't want to go home,
Yeah.
and we'd always end up on a Monday or whatever day it was, and see Matt bowling up the West End, going, "You done it again, mate," and he would miss two or three in a row.
He mustn't have made a penny just paying
I
for
don't
extra
think he
flights.
did. I don't think he did, but he was so busy anyway. But this
Yeah.
was midweek.
Yeah.
But Matt is such a great guy. I love Matt to pieces, and I'm actually seeing him when I fly over to Ibiza in a couple of weeks for
See,
his.
I think the whole of like I haven't been on the island in 50 long time.
Really? Ah,
Yeah. So since probably Dave Pearce's things were one of the last things I've
it's
done.
changed a lot, but it's
Yeah.
still got it. People say it hasn't got a vibe, but it does. If you're with the right people, you're coming over at the best week as well.
Oh, it's
Uh,
September. Is that close?
what
Is
a
it
week!
closing?
It's basically it's trance week. It's when
Right.
everyone comes. I don't know how many days you're coming over for, but we have that and Kevin and Perry. We've got God's Kitchen. We've got, and it's just like since space has closed, everyone used to fly out. All the old workers, all the old faces used to come out for space closing.
Yeah.
Now space died a sad death in 2016, I think it was, and our week has kind of replaced that.
Oh,
So we're getting
nice.
all of the old faces are coming over
Uh,
for this week. So
okay.
and I think yours is the opening event at Euphoria, and we're doing Kevin and Perry, and we're finishing with God's Kitchen. So that week, all lot come over,
Okay, brilliant.
thousands and thousands of people.
It'll,
And
it'll be, I mean, we shot everyday video in Ibiza, so it'll be very interesting to sort of go back and see it. But I never spent any time in the island, ever. I never spent more than one night on that island.
you should spend it. You should come over
Sorry,
for a few.
tell a lie. I stayed at the hacienda at the north of the island when the everyday shit was on, so I spent 2 or 3 days in that hotel.
It's going to be such a good week this week,
Uh,
this year in September. You should come over. I'm over for the whole week.
the cost of it frightens me. That's
Yeah, it does, but it's just so worth it. And
yeah.
we do a holiday as well, which we've already sold. I think we've already sold out, and we're doing like 7-day holiday and it's all over 40s.
Oh,
Um, and it's fucking great,
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just everyone, and I tell you what, I mean, we
Do
did,
you do you not think it's changed with the sort of Ashwaya
yeah, of
and
course,
it's all
absolutely.
that has shifted something.
Absolutely, in universe, and of course
Yeah.
it has evolved, and people say
How
yes,
much
but
of the how
a
much of the chicken wings in Universe, like 80 quid or
I
something?
think that was a very clever marketing ploy.
Oh, was it? Is that what it was?
Yes, I don't
Right.
think that was done as. Uh, I think he wanted him to make people know that they sold food there,
Oh, okay.
and I
Right.
think that's a very clever thing. The guy ain't stupid, and he goes, "Let's just put this price so ridiculously high that it goes viral,"
Yeah.
and it fucking
It
did.
did. Yeah,
And
yeah.
everything they do goes viral. They're brilliant. They're brilliant businessmen at what they do at the night league, and you cannot take that away from them.
Is
They're
it
very,
working?
yeah. I mean, they're very well funded, obviously, but with that funds, they some of their videos they look like they're filmed in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know,
No. But we were there around the time. Who was it? Was it Cream? Had started putting on like Kylie Minogue and stuff had started coming. They Cream were in. Was it? I don't. Was it Cream or somebody else?
Amnesia, and they got
Was
privilege over the road with
Yeah, no, it was
manumission.
it was no, it wasn't Manumission. It was some other because I remember Kylie. It was all these sort of big pop stars that started coming in to do Privilege, and it was they built the stage and stuff, and it was kind of like, well, where's this going now? You know, it's sort of
Yeah,
dance music had become such mainstream culture at that stage. You know, it was like
but Ibiza Rocks were doing
yes, they
stuff.
were doing
Yeah, they were doing like
yeah
one big night at Privilege and stuff. They brought over like Prodigy, and they brought over
bands yeah
Amnesia. I can't get no sleep. Oh God,
Faithless
Faithless
yes
and things like that, and the Kasabian and
yes
and
yes
all these guys, and they've smashed it since they broadened the genres that are over there.
Yeah.
But going back to how Ibiza's changed, yeah, it has changed, but and people say it's evolved. I don't think when people say yeah, it's evolved, things can evolve for the worse as well.
Yeah.
Not just for the better. And I think a lot of the ways it's evolved for not what I'm into. I'm not really into the VIP thing at all. I'm not. That's not me. I'm very much into my underground.
Sweatbox.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's just me.
That's where
But
I feel more comfortable there. I feel like,
the week that we have is like that. Is very full on, sweaty, banging. And the crowd that we draw is that crowd. So we're very, very fortunate to do that. Would you change anything that you've done? Do you do
yeah,
anything differently?
yeah. I did go. As I think I probably said earlier on, I went after Every Day and stuff happened. I started listening to the Chemical Brothers and Underworld, and I thought, this is where I want to be. I want a big Depeche Mode fan, and I wanted to be this big sort of. And I started making weird records, quite frankly, and the trance thing had stopped interesting me a little bit.
Mm.
And I just started listening to more these left fieldy type stuff, and I was really interested in chemicals were such a big influence on me at that time. And I spent 2 years trying to make chemical records, and I think Robbie was sitting behind me, exacerbated, going, "What is he doing?" And let me do it. Was maybe going. He has to go on this journey to realize. So I think right at the peak of our powers, we didn't capitalize enough.
Okay.
We didn't follow it up. Every Day was, we had El Nino, and then we had Every Day. And then everything, I just became a bit tainted with.
What year was that though?
So 2001.
So that was when trance would be, I think, then when did the big rooms start coming? No, it was popular 2002, 3, 4.
It started 4, I think it started going down.
Yeah, and the EDM started. I started hearing that name, EDM.
Yeah,
EDM
started.
was electronic dance music.
Yes, yeah.
And it wasn't. Then EDM meant that American commercial big room.
Because I was working in the TV at the time, and on the radio was Avicii Levels, happening. So that was 2011.
Yeah,
12. So yeah, we there was a decline, and I'd spent the last 2 years where I should have been banging out trance records. I was trying to do weird. So there's a whole album of weird breakbeaty, vocally stuff that chunky beats, and I thought I was very earnestly doing really well, and actually,
I think
nobody was interested.
I think a lot of artists have gone on different journeys. Look at like Tiesto and Armin and Armin as well. They've all gone on their own crazy.
Yeah, but Tiesto and Armin's journey led them to millions. My journey led me to.
Yeah.
I wish I'd taken their journey. I wish we had management at the time. I wish. One thing we lacked was a team behind us to facilitate and advise.
Yeah,
we'd nobody advising us.
You did everything by yourself. You were
we did everything, but we did also have people who had self-interest in keeping us down, who would wanted to be a bigger DJ. Our label man.
This is why I've started getting involved with certain artists that I don't want just to be used as add-on DJs to.
Yes, yeah. So.
We were used because people have what's the word their own
agenda. Their own agenda. So there was lots of conflicting. I always remember Paul Van Dyk had a brilliant team behind him, and they were just all focused on making Paul a good artist. Armin had a brilliant team behind him. They made Armin a brilliant artist. We had people focused on keeping us down and keeping us.
And they were just. Paul still has a team that just is Paul pushing Paul as an electronic music.
Yeah,
pushing out music. Because I've worked with Paul. And Nick's worked with Paul as well. But yeah, they've got a machine behind them still that makes sure that he is very much on that track all the time.
Yeah.
So last question for you.
Okay.
What would be your one last tune of the night if you had to drop one?
It would have to be El Nino.
Okay.
For me, because it defined an era. It was 1998, that peak of trance.
Wow. Yeah.
It was the Balearic Anthem, and it was our first big hit, and it was the sort of, it turned everything for us. It was just like, it changed everything, changed the trajectory of everything. But we didn't know at the time. It was 1998. 10 years later, looking back, it was like, that was the peak of, tunes in that year were just, the peak of trance, the peak of Ibiza, the peak of that sound. It just, and we were in amongst it. And so it's really special to be sort of named amongst, Foreign Angel, and, the tracks were like, if you look at the charts around those time, it was insane. It was like Needing You, uh, Music Sounds Better With You. We were in top 20 with El Nino. Foreign Angel was happening. There was, it's just these amazing records. And we thought, this is normal, but
Yeah,
it actually wasn't.
it wasn't
It
normal.
wasn't. It was a moment in time. So that record is so special to definitely me. To, I'm sure to Robbie as well. It just because it was two very green behind the ears guys in a studio, not knowing what they were doing, had a huge love of the music that was coming out, and we produced this sort of nugget that went on to have a life of its own and influenced so many clubbers and people coming up to me going, I remember in 1998 crying on a dance floor because it was just so emotional. And that explosion of the music, when it the big build up and then and the whole crowds, go mad. It's wonderful to go, it's something to do with that. That's pretty cool. And
Amazing.
it led us to 15 years of flying around the world, to having amazing experiences playing in front of 40,000 people, to be playing in America, to Beirut. We played in Beirut. I was the second ever DJ to play Beirut in 2000. And I had these guys behind me with machine guns, and I was the promoter said to me at 1 o'clock, stop. I was in an open air car park in Beirut. I was like, stopped. It was vinyl, and I hit stop, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You said 1 o'clock, and they've got guns." And he went, "No, that's the mayor of Beirut, and he's giving it large." He was on stage like this here, play what, and again one more tune, and I was just like, okay, and so it was amazing to sort of experience. When you look at the passport and you go, I've played there, Jesus, I've done Australia, I've done China, I've done Japan, I've done South America, I've done Canada.
Amazing. Well,
It feels like somebody else, bizarrely. And this day it feels like somebody else.
Thank you very much for the last few hours. I've really enjoyed getting to understand and hear your past, and obviously you're still going to be moving forward. I really appreciate it, and I will be seeing you in Ibiza.
Love, I can't wait. I'm
Please
really
spend
looking
a few
forward to
days there. You'll love it.
I'll try.
It is such a good laugh.
You have a hell of an edit on your hands now.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I've literally, as I said, I've been up since 3 a.m. doing one for Danny Whittle. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Have a brilliant weekend, and see you in September, Dexter.
Definitely.